Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good.
All right, everybody, welcome back to That Effin' Sports Show. We're running through every team in the NFL on the way to the regular season. We're doing all the records. We start in the NFC South because, frankly, we didn't think any of them were going to be that spectacularly great, but somebody has to win this division. Right as it stands right now, our man with the plan, Adam Hulse at Adam Hulse Sports, NFL writer for Sportskeeda. We've both got Atlanta in the sewer. You've got Carolina at 6-11. I've got them a little bit better than that, and you have
a little.
Well, we're gonna have to make them go back and catch a show. They're gonna have to go see where I got them. Although it's probably gonna come up some point in this show as we round out the NFC South. Adam, welcome back for the last team, New Orleans, as we round this division out.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you said, someone has to win this division. Much like last year, it's probably going to be a not-so-great team winning the division. But unlike last year, we got 4 brand-new quarterbacks this year, and I don't think that happens too often.
Man, it's crazy to think that, too, and it's one of those things that people don't think about until you hear it, and there it is. New Orleans starts off at home against Tennessee. Tennessee, one of those teams, if you've listened to the other ones, and you're going to hear it all the way through, one of these teams that just everyone else was trying to figure it out just like them. They had the best rush defense in the league last year. They had the worst pass defense in the league last year. The quarterback controversy everywhere. For that reason, especially at the beginning of the season, Tannehill has no idea what's going on with him. They want me. They don't want me. I'm here. They got 2 guys behind me. I think Tennessee is just all confused, and it shows up in week 1 in New Orleans. I think New Orleans gets this game pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the writing's on the wall for Tennessee. Like, it doesn't look like they really believe in their direction right now. I mean, they've drafted a quarterback in the first 3 rounds for 2 years in a row, but still haven't named either one of them their starter. You know, is Ryan Tannehill starting? No idea what's going on with their quarterback situation. There's trade rumors for Derrick Henry. They still don't have any wide receivers at all. Even worth mentioning, I traveled to New Orleans to open up the season with all that big mess going on. I think the Saints might actually win big in week 1.
We are talking about the Saints here. The Saints had a horrible run defense. They're 24th, but they had the second best pass defense last year, regardless of the wins. I don't know if that number really reflects the ability. I think it might be a little high, but at the same time, Derek Carr comes in, and I think he's going to kind of, re-energize this offense after the quarterback experiment that New Orleans has been going through. I think Derek Carr kind of gets it going this year, and they take that win against Tennessee at home in game 1. Carolina has been covered. Green Bay is game 3. New Orleans going to Green Bay. Jordan Love taking the helm. How you feeling about it?
I'm not high on Jordan Love. I think if he has any chance of being good, it's also going to take a little bit of time. He's so inexperienced in general. I actually like the Saints to go to Green Bay and getting it done.
I do as well. We talked about Tampa in the last one. We both have New Orleans taking the first one in Tampa. Then they go to New England. So we got New Orleans starting off pretty hot. Then they start to hit an interesting part of their schedule, and we'll see where we differ on this. They go to New England. Derek Carr in general does not have a great record against New England. I think New Orleans is improved. I don't know if they're improved enough to beat even a not fantastic New England.
I'm with you on that. I'm not particularly high on the Patriots this year, but with Bill Belichick, with the defense, they always seem to remain competitive. Even last year, they were pretty close to getting into the playoffs, even though they didn't get in. At home against a team like the Saints, I think that's a game that the Patriots win.
It's that defense. That defense is what really wins this one. New Orleans drops this one. Then they go to Houston. You got Derek Carr versus Stroud. That'll be the big play up, of course. Great running games. Houston still rebuilding. I think New Orleans actually takes this one pretty easy in Houston.
New Orleans should take care of business in this game. A lot of issues right now with Houston, and if New Orleans really wants to compete for a playoff spot like they expect themselves to do, you got to beat Houston.
Another thing that you got to do if you want to be considered a contender this year, assuming that there isn't regression, and that's beat Jacksonville when you play them. New Orleans is not going to be able to do that, even at home, when Jacksonville comes to play in Week 7.
Oh, I'm very high on the Jags this year. I don't think last year was fluky at all. I think there was a preview of what's to come. Watch out out for the Jags this year, and they're going to win that game.
Then they travel up to Indy, dome to dome. Once again, I think I love home team, all right? And I do think Indy is going to be improved this year. It's in a dome, but I just think that the veteran experience is going to outplay Richardson's skill set, and I think New Orleans wins in a close one.
Another tough game to pick there. I'm going to go with, the theory I've kind of used a couple times in these previews that if the game was in New Orleans, I would take the Saints, but being that it's in Indy, I'll take the Colts.
Man, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a flip-flopper because number one, we need a little controversy in this show. But number two, I went back and forth with this one so much, and I really did. I have a little note here to kind of see what Adam says. And so I did put my prediction out first to see what you were going to do with it. Indy with the win. I'm agreeing with you on this.
It's those cross-conference games. It's those unfamiliar opponents that, in my opinion, are the biggest home field advantage type of games, the unfamiliar teams playing each other, and that's why I'll favor the Colts.
It should be fun to watch. Then Chicago comes into New Orleans. I think Chicago makes improvements this year. I like New Orleans at home in this one.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. We both think that the Bears are going to be an improved team, but playing in New Orleans, in the Dome, on the road, that's a tough one for anybody. I'll take the Saints.
Saints got to win that game. You're in home against Chicago. They have to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go to Minnesota, dome to dome. I think Minnesota's a better team. If this had been in New Orleans, we might have been talking a different answer, but because it's in Minnesota, I'm giving New Orleans the loss on this one.
Yeah, I just think Minnesota's better. I think they showed that last year, and I don't think that record-wise, I think I said this on a preview episode, that I don't think the Vikings are going to be as good record-wise this year as they were last year, but I still think they're going to be a playoff team, and they're going to win this game.
And that takes us to the bye week. Get a nice bye week, week 11. Good spot for it. Coming off a loss, they roll into Atlanta. You said, or when we did the Atlanta episode, that Atlanta was going to win this game. I disagreed with you. I think New Orleans wins this one, so we'll see how that one plays out.
I said a rivalry game, home type of split.
Then they go to, then Detroit comes to them. Detroit comes into the Dome. Again, dome-to-dome team. Detroit looking real good this year. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the ones that we disagree on because I'm calling the upset. I'm taking New Orleans at home. I gave New Orleans the edge on this one.
What a cool game this is, right? I like this matchup. This could potentially be a preview of the first round of the playoffs, right? These are two teams who kind of expect to make the playoffs this year. They're probably not going to have top seeds or anything like that, but these are likely possibly going to be first round type of playoff teams. And I'm actually agreeing with you that in New Orleans, I'm going to take the Saints.
You're going to be real surprised here at the end, I think. Carolina, we already talked about. We differed on this one. I gave New Orleans the loss versus Carolina. You gave New Orleans the win at home. Then the Giants come into town. I know what you want to happen in this one because you want your Cowboys to do well. Is New Orleans going to be able to take down the Giants?
I think the Giants are taking a big step backwards this year, in my opinion. When you really look at their year last year, they made it to the playoffs. They advanced in the playoffs. When you really look at their games, like, where were they convincing? Where were they impressive? Where were those games like, wow, this Giants team is actually really good? They won a lot of ugly games, and to their credit, they got them done. I just don't see them having that same kind of fortunate outcome this year, and I'm taking New Orleans to win out.
I actually have New Orleans losing. I agree with pretty much everything you just said. I just think the Daniel Jones factor shows up. Saquon is going to be too much for him. It might be close, but I'm actually giving the Giants the win in this one. Then they go to LA. They're going to play the Rams. The Rams, another team I see getting a high draft pick this year. Derek Carr gets it done against the Rams is my prediction.
Well, the question marks are obviously around Matthew Stafford. Health look like? What does he look like in general? Rams kind of a weird team, but look, I'm actually going to take the Rams to win this game with the Saints having to travel all the way across the country, go play that West Coast game over there in LA. I think this will be one of those slight upset type of games. Give me the Rams.
Interesting take. I like it. Going out on a limb. Upsets got to happen. They have to be there. They're going to happen. They are an integral part of the game. It's not a bad spot to take one.
There's going to be a couple games on every team's schedule that they're supposed to win that they don't, and games that they're supposed to lose that they don't. And to me, having to travel all the way across the country to play probably a not so good Rams team, that seems like an upset spot to me.
Then we've already talked about these last two games. New Orleans is going to go to Tampa, and we both have them down walking away with a win. Atlanta's going to come to New Orleans. New Orleans again is going to win. Are you aware of the records records, because we've kind of been taking this game by game, and I'm not sure what you have written down versus what I have written down. Do you know the record that you've kind of afforded New Orleans through this process?
Well, I'll say that I have New Orleans winning more games than I think that they're worthy of winning. Kind of similar to the Giants last year and even the Vikings last year, that I don't think they were necessarily as good as their record, but certain situations and strength of schedule, individual type of matchup type of stuff, I think that the Saints will win more games and their record will look better than the team that they actually are.
So like most of these matchups, with the exception of Carolina, we actually are in pretty much agreement here.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay you had at 7-10, but I know you were high on Tampa to compete for this division. But as we walk through this, and this is why we're doing this and walking through this, kind of see where we have people plus minus one or two upsets and stuff like that notwithstanding, I think the big takeaway here is that we see Atlanta being the worst, New Orleans being the best, Tampa and Carolina falling somewhere in the middle.
This is why we do this, kind of like you said, because to me, New Orleans, when I just look at their team and look at their roster, and if I were to just make a quick prediction of their record, I'd probably say something like 7-10. They probably look like a 7-win team to me. But then, when you do go game by game, like we just did, and kind of break it down, there's a lot of winnable games on the Saints schedule. Them coming out to 10-7 is better than I think that they are, but I think it's very achievable.
So we have New Orleans winning the division. They're in the playoffs. I don't know if Tampa's going to make it with their 7-10 in that wild card spot. Remains to be seen. Come back and join us as we talk through it. We'll see who New Orleans is going to play in round one. Does New Orleans get a favorable matchup that they can take advantage of like they seemingly have done on this schedule as we've run through it with Adam Hulse at Adam Hulse Sports, NFL writer for Sports Kita. You've listened to it all here at That Effin' Sports Show, at That Effin' Show on Twitter. The New Orleans Saints are our prediction, and I can say ours. I don't know if we're going to be able to say that in every division. Are we, Adam?
Probably not.
Probably not. But the New Orleans Saints are our prediction to win the not great NFC South. Come back and join us. See where the other divisions end up. Let's see who's going to the Super Bowl. We'll see you guys next time.
Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe.